Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we're going to take a stroll through the gardens and kind of get an idea of where we're at heading into October. Let's get going. Well, today's the last day of September and our gardens are starting to transition from summer into fall. So with that, I thought it'd be fun for us just to take a minute, take a stroll through all of the gardens and kind of find out where we're at and where we're going heading into October. Good morning, Beansy the garden cat. These animals are loving the change in weather here. All right, so let's start here with the lettuce bed. We tried to make this into a strawberry bed. It did not work. So it's going to be a lettuce bed, and it looks to be thriving in that role. So we're really excited. Lettuce will be coming out here, I don't know, next week or so. We've already started trimming some of the lettuce off. You can see Leslie's loofahs are also still going strong. Some blooms on them. And then they've grown here on my gate. You can see several of them on here. So as long as it doesn't close the gate, I can't open it, right? It's fine. And then we'll go over to the veggie bed. Since we removed the Roma tomatoes, that parsley over there has started going really good. And it's also really helped out our basil plants. I think I grew a little too much basil this year. We had a bunch of it. But some of the new additions, when we took the tomatoes out, we put in these mustard greens, and you can tell they are coming along nicely. We also have a few green onions that we'll use inside. And then another remnant from our summer gardens are these pimento peppers. And they have also started to put off quite a bit more. And next to them are the jalapeno peppers. Now we just went through and picked these. We got a little friend in here. Can you see her with her egg sac? We like to let the spiders hatch them just so that they can sort of populate the beds, and next year they'll be here for insect control. Leslie doesn't like picking around them, so you could see those the jalapenos that were left. Of course, these are more basil plants. Look how tall that is, that basil plant. We have gotten a lot of basil from it this year. We're still sort of picking the flowers off. Looks like I missed one yesterday. I'll have to get that when we're done here. And then on the trellis, our cherry tomatoes are still going strong. I haven't picked them yet this morning. You can see we usually get somewhere between a dozen and a half dozen cherry tomatoes each day. It looks like that's going to pick up a little bit. You can see here we have a lot of green tomatoes coming on, and that's just because the temperatures are really good for tomatoes right now. In the evening times, you know, it gets down to right about 60 degrees or so, and the daytimes, usually they've been in the upper 80s, but we've had a 4-day streak here where it's been in the upper 90s with the feels like in the triple digits. But you know, it's Arkansas, that happens. It's been triple digits, or the feels like, maybe not the actual air temperature, but the feels like temperature has been close to triple digits in October a few times. So it's just something you've got to be on your game about. Make sure you water enough and your plants are ready for it. You can see these here, all of these mustard greens. And then we have, if you can see them down there, there are some green onions. We didn't plant those. Those are just leftovers from last spring, so that's always good. And now we come to the okra, and we have put away quite a bit of pickled okra, so we've gotten enough of that. So at this point, what I do is I take it in the house. You know, you pick it, I don't know, every 2-3 days or so. We'll take it in the house and I'll cut it into soup-sized pieces and freeze it. And then when the weather turns right for it, I'll use that okra to make us some gumbo. And then this middle row here, it has turned out really well so far. We've got turnips in here. You can see we spaced these turnips out a lot more than what we did our spring turnips. And what we'll do when we get to the top garden, the spacing here is just because we want to see if we can encourage a bit bigger of a turnip root. So the ones that we got in the springtime were delicious, but they were a little smaller. They were somewhere around baseball size, which probably is the right size for a turnip. But I just want to see if we space them a little bit more if we can actually get larger turnip roots. Anyway, we're going to find out how that works out. Look at all these marigolds. Whenever it's really hot, we weren't having hardly any blooms, but you can see the color on this guy. And it is phenomenal. We just came out here whenever the evenings started, you know, I say the evenings, the lows for the nights, whenever they started getting, you know, around 60, these things just started taking off. So that'll be fun to have that much color heading into the fall. And our late summer cucumbers have started thriving in this. I guess, you know, when it's not 105 degrees, I guess that's good for not only us, but the plants as well. But we're actually getting cucumbers now, so that's fantastic. Not as many as we did in the spring, of course, but that's okay. If we can have cucumbers all the way up through, you know, the first frost, I'll be happy with the addition of these late cucumbers. And then finally, the last thing that we have here in the old garden are the pole beans. You can see we're getting beans on here. Not to be confused with Beansy the garden cat. We're not getting enough at a time to do something like, say, make a, you know, like a big side dish of green beans or anything like that. But what they do come in handy for is when I make stir fries. I can just, you know, pick off, I don't know, 10, 12 of them at a time. You can throw that in a stir fry, and while it's not good enough for a side dish, it does add excellent flavor and texture, you know, to like a squash and pork stir fry or something. So I had mentioned the weather was getting pretty warm, and because of that, I went ahead and started the mulching process. I'm not quite done, but as we get in here, you'll see that half of the garden's done, half of it's not. Reason for that is I just simply hadn't had time to get the entire thing done. With that being said, let's go take a look. So this is the carrot bed that we put in at the beginning of the year. This will be the first fall that we've grown carrots in here, so we're excited to see what happened. It did relatively well in the spring, but not as good as we were hoping. Went through and minted it a little better and added some sand. I think maybe the soil was a little compacted for it, so we're hoping that that works out a little better. Over here you can see our banana peppers are still producing. We even have blooms coming on. I really do think the break in the weather has helped out a lot. Even though the last few days have been warm, it's not really hot, you know, but for, I don't know, 3-4 hours in the middle of the day towards, once the sun starts going down, it cools off relatively quickly. So it's not like it was, you know, in July and August when it was 100 degrees for 4 or 5 hours at a time. You know, and that was just brutal on the plants. We are really excited with where we're at. We have 2 volunteer okra plants. We're actually getting okra off of them, so I'm not going to complain. But over here you can see right up against the fence line, there's some more okra. So we're doing the same thing with those. We're just taking them in as they ripen, and I'll cut them up and freeze them, and then whenever the weather turns, I'll make us some gumbo. We have gotten a surprising amount of purple hull peas out of these 2 beds. We'll see in a minute, but we have the bed in the Pallet Garden as well. But overall, we were able to put up quite a few purple hull peas. So as we're kind of starting to think about next year's plans, that's something that we're going to probably grow a little bit more, start in the spring and move all the way through, because I love purple hull peas in the wintertime. Then we have this yellow squash plant, and it's still putting off squash. We're not getting a whole lot, to be honest, though. I mean, it's probably 2 to 3 squash a week. They're nice big yellow squash, though, so just 1 squash is enough to have with dinner for Leslie and I. And then we have these turnips. These turnips will be cut, I'm not sure, I would imagine in the next 10 days or so. And then this whole bed right here will be replanted in turnips, because this week it's going to get, I'm sorry, next week I believe, it's going to get in the 40s. And when it does that, these yellow squash don't like that kind of temperature. So we'll pull it out, we'll redo the entire bed, cook those greens up, and then we will put in some more turnips. And those turnips will go for tossed salads is what they'll probably go for. Very few of them will be left in there for the roots. And then this bucket over here, this week, we're going to take both of the garden buckets and we're going to replant those in the black-seeded Simpson. Right now, all we have in the ground is Butter Crunch. The black-seeded Simpson doesn't really care for warm temperatures, so we usually wait until October to put it in the ground. And, oh, look at these guys. We'll be making pimento cheese by the end of the week. These combined with those other pimentos that are growing in the old garden, that's something, again, we're going to grow a lot more of those pimento plants. We're probably going to grow somewhere around 20 of them. That pimento cheese has been something that has just been incredibly popular with friends and family, so I think I'm going to make it. The wife and I enjoy it as well. These have also been a nice addition to the homestead. These are jumbo cayenne peppers. Last year we grew the regular cayenne peppers, and we got a bunch of them, but they're so small and difficult to pick, and then whenever you go through to clean them to take the seeds out, it's just a pain. Using these bigger ones, you get as much. It's just, a lot easier to clean them and pick them and that sort of stuff. So all of those flowers on there, I mean, these guys have been putting off since July, so we have a lot of peppers put away. So now I got to figure out how to eat them all over the winter, which I don't think I'll have a problem with. These are some more mustard greens. They're just going to sort of supplement any holes that we have in the mustard greens from the old garden. Leslie and I really like cooked greens. We also want to try to can them. I've heard you could do that. So we're going to try to do that with some of these when they come off, just to see if we can. We just went through and picked all the large bell peppers, but you can tell we have quite a few coming off. I'll be interested to see how the production on these works whenever the temperatures start getting, like I said, down in the mid 40s. So the evenings will be the mid 40s, but the weird thing about Arkansas is the daytimes will be in the, mid 80s. So it's really weird this time of year. You can have temperature swings of, 40, 45 degrees in a single day. These marigolds here are also doing really well. We let these go to seed, our basil plants out here, and I'm telling you what, we're gonna have more basil seeds than we know what to do with. Let's see if they're starting to. I don't think so, not just yet. When they're ready, you can roll them in your fingers and you'll see the little black seeds pop out. We're also getting quite a few cherry tomatoes daily. Look at those orange. We're going to grow those next year too. Next year we'll probably just do Sweet Millions and the orange cherry tomatoes. Those are the ones that produce the most. And these, I kind of like a tangy tomato with a sweet tomato. The orange tomatoes are really sweet. The Sweet Millions have a bit more of an acidic taste than the orange ones, so they make a really good combination if you're trying to just, put them in a bowl for a snack. And again, these will do good. These don't mind, these tomato plants like this, especially the cherry tomato plants, they don't mind the temperatures in like the mid 40s or so, especially whenever they can get those warmer temperatures anywhere from, 70 to 85 degrees. So we're hoping to get quite a bit more cherry tomatoes. And if we're super lucky, they will last all the way up until the first frost. Is that a good stick, Boo? All right. Moving on to the Pallet Garden. I'm really happy with where the Pallet Garden is this time of year. Leslie and I, our objective is to be as self-sufficient as possible. This year, heading into the fall, we are far ahead of where we were last year. And what we're hoping to do is just kind of get the cadence down a lot more as time goes along so that we don't have any breaks between where we're eating food from our yard. And that'll kind of keep us from the grocery store, and especially when we add the goats here in a couple months and we can do our own dairy. I'm really excited about where the homestead is heading. But these are the purple hull peas I was discussing earlier, and you can see there are blooms all over them. Again, I'm really happy with how many of the purple hulls that we got. We are going to plan from the get-go next year to start these in the early summer and grow them all the way through the fall. And in here, oh, you can start to see them coming up. Because of the way the sun goes, this side grows a little faster than this side. But these are the golden Detroit beets. And over here are the red Detroit beets. We love beets. It's something I'm personally working on. If I had to say that I had my biggest weakness from a gardening standpoint, is hands down, no questions asked, growing beets. I really need to get better at it. This bed has done really well. We did a couple different things. We started some inside. We'll look at those in a minute, and then we direct sowed others. These are the nata pino plants that we grew for the first time this year, and this will be another permanent addition to our gardens here. They taste a lot like bell peppers. When they're small like this, they taste like a sweet bell pepper, and whenever they get to size, they taste like a sweet jalapeno pepper. They have the same taste as a jalapeno, but without any of the spice. So for Leslie and I, who are not a huge fan of like over-the-top heat, we like to take these and pickle them with the regular jalapenos, and they balance each other out really nicely. Look at these volunteer zinnias. We let this one go over here, and it's just kind of taken over. But it's fun to have that kind of color heading into the fall, you know. And then over here, we have our first round of radishes. Anybody who grows radishes knows radishes grow incredibly quickly. So we went ahead and sowed these. We'll have these with our first round of tossed salads. The bed we looked at earlier in the top garden, it will contain radishes for the second half of the season. Now, these beets here, these are the ones that we started inside, and they've done really well. So this might be something that we do from now on. I haven't really decided. It's kind of a pain, to be honest with you, to start the beets inside. And I don't know if germination rates on beets are just a pain. If anybody out there is real successful at beets and have any advice, I would love to hear it in the comments. So, and then what we did is this side over here, we grew inside, started them, put them in here. This side over here, I direct sowed. I just wanted a bed where I could juxtapose the two. And I guess what I'm getting at is if these beets right here are the most successful, then that's just the way I'll do it, whether it feels a little clunky or not. But one way or the other, I am determined that I'm going to figure out how to grow beets consistently. Well, today's video was a little bit longer than usual, so I appreciate everyone who stuck it out with me here till the end. As always, I appreciate all you folks for watching. Till next time, I hope you take care of yourselves. Peace.